Regardless of whether you played tabletop games for days or years, have you ever encountered the problem where a player acts in a really strange, annoying, or disruptive way, and then justifies their actions by just pointing at something on their character sheet? Or is that something that you've done and your friend has just sent you this video? Well, whichever it is, let's discuss being restricted by the mechanics, whether you're new or you've been playing since the dawn of time. And you might be feeling really confused right now because you're new to all this tabletop gaming stuff and a friend insisted that, hey, you should join our D&D game, or whatever game it is, let's be honest, probably D&D. And then they made you sit down like the rest of the players and make your character sheets, including stuff like your stats, your lineage, and if you play in D&D, your alignment. But then they got mad at you when you followed your character sheet and did what the sheet said. And that's probably because you're new and you did something a bit strange because your character sheet says that you're chaotic evil or lawful good, or that you have low charisma or intelligence, or you're a goblin. Everyone goes through this in some way or another, and that's why this isn't just a video for new players. So in brief, you don't have to follow your character sheet so hard that you feel obligated to do things that even you feel are really weird. And that's because the character sheet and the stuff on it are there to guide you, and not restrict you. If you're lawful good, that just means that you follow the rules and you generally are a good person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to act as judge, jury, and executioner towards people who commit minor infractions like littering, being annoying, or stealing loaves of bread when they are poor and they have a family of 5 kids to feed. Instead, you should let your alignment just be a guide for how your character's personality may manifest in the session. And if that sounds confusing, just think, my character is a person, and they don't know that they have an alignment. They just think the way they do because of the world around them and how they were raised. Just think of how your character would think. Both actors and writers do this with the characters that they portray. They think in terms of how the character thinks and not alignment. And if that sounds confusing, here's a fun tip. You are a person. You don't have an alignment, or at least you don't know that you do. You probably follow the rules of the road, rules of not punching people in the street, or acting as a vigilante, so you can think how other people think. And don't for a second think it's derivative or boring if your character thinks similar to you, because there are a bunch of people that share your opinions and morals. Yes, there are. How do you think voting works? Instead of being restricted by how your alignment tells you to act, I would recommend that you play out your character first, maybe a couple of sessions, maybe one session, and let them make decisions, and then assign their alignment, based on how you have acted, or they have acted. Another issue can be your character's stats, like your charisma or their intelligence. If your character, or another player character, has low charisma, don't enforce this idea that they must be ugly, or they have to act antisocially when in public. Low charisma just means that you don't have a strong sense of self. They may be shy, nervous, or maybe just a bit too enthusiastic in conversation. Meanwhile, low intelligence doesn't mean that they need to have troubles when speaking, or that you need to bring out your non-existent psychology degree to start analysing characters for mental illnesses. Your character with only 6 intelligence may be someone who acts completely normal, but they have incredibly selective knowledge. Let your stats guide how your character acts, but don't start jumping to insane conclusions about what all these stats mean and analysing other people's characters about what all their stats mean. Like, actually, your character only has 6 intelligence, therefore this means blah, 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 blah. Annoying. You can absolutely decide that your low intelligence character is a big comically dumb goofy boy, but don't demand that a character with a similar intelligence score is equally stupid. Maybe they are really good at their sphere of expertise, but have no general knowledge. Like, maybe you were a farm boy who was rebellious and didn't go to school that much, and as a result, you don't know what an elf looks like or how they behave. And speaking of which, don't let choices of race, species, ancestry, lineage, or whatever it is define how your character acts. Don't be the sort of player that says, you're a dwarf, okay, that means you're supposed to be an alcoholic, that means you're brash, that means you're greedy, or even Scottish. Your character can be born as a dwarf, but then have very unique circumstances as to how they grew up, so they act very differently to how your assumptions may determine them. Not every single elf is going to be prissy and posh, not all goblins are chaotic and vile, and not all humans are boring. So to cap all this off, don't be restricted by your character. You are playing your character, they are not controlling you. And here's the thing, you might hear all that I've said in this video and still say, my table says that you're wrong. You may have very strong opinions on how alignment, and how your stats should work. Well, the truly important takeaway from all of this is, do whatever your group finds fun. But, however you feel towards your level of adherence to your character's mechanics, you acting disruptively is still being disruptive and not fun. Your character sheet is no excuse towards how unfun your character and ultimately you are to be around. If everyone really doesn't like your character because you play them in a way so that they ruin other people's day, then you might need a different character, or ultimately to find a different group. And listen, do you know what I've not mentioned yet? Character development. Your character might be a chaotic neutral goblin with low intelligence who's mean and violent from a bandit lifestyle before adventuring. However, through playing the game, it is super cool to see your character who clashes with the party and steals and does weird stuff eventually start to chill out as they mature. Your characters aren't restricted by alignment because alignment can change. People can change. Your characters aren't restricted by their stats because they can change. That's what happens when you level up, and your species has never mattered to how you act, let's be honest. So, if your character isn't restricted, then you don't need to be either. Don't be fun at the table because of a few numbers on your character sheet. Make your time playing fun for you and everyone playing, okay? Alright, thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please leave a like and tell me in the comments if you would like help with anything else. Also, click the video on screen to see more tips on playing and running tabletop games. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.